that beater with the door closed. What are you, trying to kill us? When are you gonna fix this thing anyway, man? You know, I never understood what you see in these old Mopars. Why don't you get yourself a real muscle car like this baby right here?
Yeah? Why doesn't that Trans Am look like one of these?
It will, my friend. I just need a little more time. Okay? Remember that 67 I sold? Yeah. Remember what it looked like when I finished it?
Yeah, that was a cool car. 1967 ragtop. The 325 horse, 400, set of Rally 2 wheels. Cried when you sold that car.
Pontiac burst into the pony car market by announcing its new F-body in February 1967, and muscle car history would never be the same. With its smooth aerodynamic lines, distinctive tailgates, and aggressive beak, the 67 Firebird was much different from its cousin, the Chevy Camaro. It was an instant winner on the styling front. But what really made the car a hit was its variety of available equipment. There were 5 Firebird models to choose from in '67, the Magnificent 5, and each was available as either a coupe or a convertible. The base Firebird was powered by a 165-horse overhead cam 6. The Firebird Sprint had a 207 horsepower 4-barrel version of the same engine. The Firebird 326 packed a 250 horsepower 326 V8. The HO sported a 4-barrel 326 that was rated at 285 horsepower, and the top-of-the-line model was the Firebird 400. The big 400 cube V8 was rated at 325 horsepower and 410 pound-feet of torque. It featured a quadrajet 4-barrel carb, dual exhaust, and a 10.75-to-1 compression ratio. In the GTO, this same engine was rated at 335 horsepower. This was due to the 10 pounds to 1 horsepower corporate edict. A throttle linkage restrictor stopped the rear 2 barrels of the quadrajet carb from opening all the way. All Firebird 400s were limited by this restrictor. This muscle V8 was backed by a standard heavy-duty 3-speed manual. Both a heavy-duty 4-speed and the turbo hydromatic automatic were optional. An extra firm ride and handling package, redline wide oval tires, and front bucket seats were also standard 400 equipment. The Firebird 400 featured a tough-looking set of hood scoops. Those scoops became functional when a Firebird buyer anteed up for the L67 Ram Air engine. The Ram Air induction system force-fed cooler, denser air to the carburetor at speed, thus producing more power. The Ram Air 400 had a special 301 313-degree duration cam, polished stainless steel valves, heavier valve springs, and special Ram Air cast iron exhaust manifolds. With its bold lines and 325 horsepower under the hood, the '67 Firebird 400 is one muscular pony car.
If I was going to buy another first model year or something, it'd probably be the '69 Trans Am. Now that's an original. You know they only made about 700 of them? They say there's about 100 left.
What engine has it got?
It's got the Ram Air 3 400. I mean, nobody ever made a big deal about the Trans Am that year. But man, if I could get my hands on one of those, all you'd see would be my taillights.
The legacy that we call the Trans Am began quietly with the 1969 model year. The mid-year Trans Am option included a 335 horsepower Ram Air 3 400, the same engine that was rated at 366 horsepower in the GTO. It offered driver-controlled cold air induction, a heavy-duty 3-speed manual transmission, and a safety track rear with 355 gears as standard. The 345 horse Ram Air 4 400 V8 was optional. It ran a recalibrated quadrajet on a new aluminum intake with a separate cast iron heat crossover. It also featured round port heads, forged pistons, and 4-bolt main caps. Also optional on the '69 TA were either a 4-speed manual or an automatic trans, a hood-mounted tachometer, a power driver seat, and rally gauges. Trans Am received a race-tuned suspension with a 1-inch front sway bar. heavy-duty springs and shocks, and quick-ratio variable rate power steering. Disc brakes were standard. The new for '69 body was covered in cameo white paint with dual blue racing stripes that ran from the front of the hood, back over the roof, and down over the deck lid to the rear valance panel. The Trans Am also received a ram air hood with large intake scoops, a blacked-out grille, a pair of Fender air extractors, and a huge rear spoiler. Of the more than 87,000 Firebirds built in '69, only 697 were Trans Ams, including 8 convertibles. Oddly enough, due to the Sport Car Club of America's rule that limited engine displacement to 305 cubic inches, the Trans Am was not eligible for the race series it was named after. The original plan was to make the Firebird eligible with a street version of a 303 cubic inch race engine. But problems killed the 303 program, and the TA was released with the 400. Pontiac still pays the SCCA $5 per car for use of the Trans Am name.
Yeah, 69 Trans Am would be really cool. But what would be really nice would be one of those third-generation birds. Production was low enough to keep it kind of rare, but the build quality was better than it had been in years. And for a few years, they had that 1LE package. You know about that?
With just 2,151 cars built in 1992, Trans Am production hit its lowest point in 20 years. Ironically, an adhesive used on the body during assembly meant that the '92 Trans Am was the most structurally sound TA in years. And while the stock 230 horsepower 305 V8 was far from a drag strip stormer, the '92's balanced handling and good looks made it quite a competent road machine. Add the legendary 1LE equipment, and you've got a Trans Am worthy of its road racing heritage, a thinly disguised factory race car that's street legal. The 1LE package grew out of the need to make Pontiac's F-Body competitive in showroom stock racing. It yielded a Firebird Trans Am with all of the necessary suspension and braking equipment, without any of the heavy creature comforts to slow the car down. The 1LE equipment could not be ordered with air conditioning and certain power equipment, but it could make a Trans Am handle and stop far better than any Mustang. Heavy-duty front and rear disc brakes were a big part of the package. 12-inch diameter vented rotors and aluminum calipers significantly increased the TA's stopping ability. These worked with the standard Trans Am master cylinder. The WS6 Special Purpose Suspension Package replaced the standard F41 setup. It featured larger diameter front and rear stabilizer bars and specific rate struts, shocks, and springs. The 1LE system increased the fuel capacity to 18 gallons. The fuel tank also benefited from a set of internal baffles to control fuel slosh and a reworked fuel sender and in-tank filter. Engine mods include a dual converter exhaust system and an oil cooler. Rounding out the package was an aluminum drive shaft and a spare tire, a limited slip rear with 342 gears and Z-rated 245/50 Goodyear tires. This Jamaica yellow '92 Trans Am 1LE is owned by Leo Montiel. In addition to the 1LE package, it was optioned with power windows, door locks, and antenna, and the R6P Performance Enhancement Group. Though air conditioning could not be ordered from the factory with the 1LE, this one was fitted with an aftermarket AC system.
You know, even though those newer birds could do everything most of the older ones could and then some, the biggest engine any of them ever has is a 350 Chevy. I'd go for a TA with one of those torque monster Pontiac built 455s. One of them Super Duty 455s and a shovel nose 74 with a shaker hood and a 4-speed. Now that's one tough bird. Like my father always said, there's no substitute for cubic inches.
1974 is generally viewed as the beginning of the dark ages for muscle car fans. An oil embargo that drove up gas prices, increasing insurance premiums, and more stringent emissions requirements all spelled doom for the big thirsty engines that powered America's muscle machines. But over at Pontiac, you could still order up an F-body with a choice of two 455 cubic inch power plants. Understandably, Trans Am sales increased by more than 100%, and there were still those two little words that struck fear in the hearts of the competition: Super Duty. With a factory net horsepower rating of 290, the 1974 version of the Super Duty 455 wasn't as powerful as the Ram Air engines of the early birds. But the Super Duty was as much about image as it was about sheer muscle. And on both counts, it got the job done. The SD 455 featured a Rochester 4-barrel carb, round port heads based on the Ram Air 4s, and 455 HOs, Ram Air exhaust manifolds, and specific exhaust pipes and mufflers. On Super Duties only, the PCV was relocated from the valley pan to the valve cover oil filler cap. It was moved because with 80 pounds of oil pressure, the PCV would suck oil when it was located in the valley pan. The Super Duty 455 could be backed by either a 4-speed manual or automatic trans. It was a